There are things happening the president doesn't know about, but that some planners at the Pentagon doubtless do.
So Tucker Carlson just dropped some explosive revelations about Pentagon operations happening without presidential knowledge, and it ties directly to current Iran escalations. We're talking deep state secrecy, JFK assassination connections, and how America's shadow government actually operates. This is massive.
I think most Americans understand this as a war between the United States in partnership with Israel against Iran, but there are, of course, a lot of other players acting on this drama, maybe in ways that we don't perceive. China would be the biggest and potentially most threatening to our interests. What is China's role in this conflict?
China's role is massive, but ignored by mainstream media. They've invested over $400 billion in Belt and Road infrastructure through Iran, including that railroad system we're now bombing. This isn't just about Iran. We're directly attacking Chinese economic interests.
I think a lot of Americans are at a great disadvantage in understanding this because they lack a sense of the mechanics of commerce. Products just appear. It's not clear how. And they lack a sense of geography. The idea that, Iran, you could reach China from Iran overland. People, I think, lack the perspective of how exactly that would happen.
That railroad is part of the modern Silk Road. Chinese freight trains can reach Tehran in just 12 days versus 45 days by sea. We're bombing critical infrastructure that threatens the dollar's dominance in global trade. This is economic warfare disguised as counterterrorism.
But clearly the Pentagon understands these questions, right? So they're bombing that railroad for a reason, which would be what, do you think?
Exactly right. Bombing Chinese-built infrastructure is essentially declaring economic war on Beijing. Every rail line we destroy represents billions in Chinese investment. This could easily escalate into direct US-China conflict, which explains why Pentagon planners are keeping presidents in the dark.
Just jumping ahead, it strikes me that once the US government, OFAC, loses the ability to sanction other countries, it will have only the power to sanction American citizens for disobedience with programmable digital currency, and it will do something very similar to us.
OFAC is Treasury's sanctions enforcement arm, but countries like Russia and Iran are building dollar alternatives through BRICS payment systems. Once that succeeds, programmable CBDCs become the only way to control American citizens who resist government overreach. The timeline is accelerating.
Well, it does seem like the things you do to your opponents abroad will be done to your own citizens by the same government.
Yes.
I mean, that seems like a pretty consistent lesson of history. So that's why empires are bad, because they're bad for your own population.
Classic imperial blowback. The surveillance tools we used on foreign dissidents are now deployed against January 6 defendants. The financial weapons we use against Iran are being prepared for American truckers. Empire always comes home to roost.
The impulse to go to war with China, like in exchange of ballistic missiles, at least, where does that come from? Why would you want that? Why would Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld and so many others be advocating for that?
The neoconservatives who lied about Iraqi WMDs are now pushing China conflict. Cheney's Halliburton made billions from Iraq. Today's defense contractors see trillion-dollar opportunities in a new Cold War. Follow the money. It's always about enriching the military-industrial complex.
Who do you think did kill Kennedy?
This question becomes crucial given what we just learned about Pentagon operations without presidential oversight. If shadow elements can bomb Chinese infrastructure without Biden's knowledge, what couldn't they do to a president who threatened their power 60 years ago?
When the lone gunman kills the lone gunman, they're probably not lone gunmen.
Jack Ruby had documented mob connections and was dying of cancer when he killed Oswald. The timing was perfect. Silence the patsy before he could talk. When you eliminate witnesses that efficiently, you're looking at organized conspiracy, not random violence.
So the United States is and with Israel, blowing up Chinese-built infrastructure. So that seems like a big step. And it seems like in so doing, you could risk Chinese further participation in this conflict. Are we risking that?
China has invested over $60 billion in Iranian infrastructure since 2021. In Chinese culture, attacking their economic projects is a direct challenge to national dignity. They cannot ignore this without losing face globally, which makes military retaliation increasingly likely. Iran threatens the petrodollar system by selling oil in yuan and rubles. Their partnership with China creates an alternative economic bloc outside US control. This isn't about terrorism. It's about preserving America's ability to print money and export inflation globally.
It's pretty obvious that lone gunmen seem to kill people who are a challenge to entrenched power. And maybe that's not an accident.
Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, RFK, JFK, all challenged established power structures, all killed by supposed lone gunmen. Given today's revelations about Pentagon shadow operations, this pattern suggests systematic elimination of threats to the national security state's control.